Like being apathetic?
Yeah.
Like not doing anything?
Yeah.
Like just sitting around and being sedentary and not doing anything? Well, I'm 43 now, so I think it's all right. I mean, I don't mind just sitting on the couch and watching, TV all day or whatever. But when you're a kid, you got to get out there and see the world. I've had a lot of fun, unique Canadian experiences, I guess, that not everybody could say that they've had because they're not Canadian. Once I jumped on a freight train. Don't do this, by the way, kids. It's illegal, and it's actually probably one of the most illegal things I've ever done. I don't even know if I really want to say that it's illegal, but it's probably one of the, let's say, can I not use the word illegal?
Yeah, don't use the word illegal.
I think it's probably one of the most dangerous and stupidest things I've ever done, but when I was in my 20s, early 20s, let's say early 20s, so it makes me seem less stupid, even though I was probably 25. But I would jump on a flatbed boxcar freight train, a flatbed, in the middle of December with my friend, and we'd have our jackets and our hats, and we would ride the rails from Ottawa, Canada, out to Sudbury, Ontario. And then the train wouldn't stop. So it was the middle of winter, and the train wouldn't stop. And for hours. And we had a backpack, and in the backpack I had a Snickers bar, I had some Kit Kat bars, I had a pack of cigarettes, because we thought that would be the kind of thing that hobos would have, cigarettes, and even though we didn't smoke, and a bottle of whiskey. And actually it wasn't a backpack, it was a handkerchief that we tied up on and put on the end of a stick, just because we wanted to look like the classic hobos from the 1920s and 30s, the 30s, I guess, the dirty 30s. So we rode out to Sudbury. The thing is the train didn't stop, and it was on the way to Sudbury, and it hadn't stopped for a good solid, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours or something like that. And we were cold. And we were outside. We weren't in a boxcar like you would sort of assume that you would be in. If everything was perfect, when you went down to the rail yard with your handkerchief, with your Kit Kat bars and your cigarettes and your whiskey, you'd think that you're going to jump on a perfectly good boxcar with bales of hay that you can lie on and sleep on, and everything's perfect. But instead, there was no open boxcar, and so there was a flatbed with an 18-wheeler parked on top of it. And we sat underneath the 18-wheeler, leaning against the tires, and we rode off into northern Ontario. And after about 6 hours, we were getting scared that the train was never going to stop. And then it stopped. It stopped in the middle of Algonquin Park for no apparent reason. And I think maybe it had stopped because somebody might have seen us on the flatbed, because you'd go through intersections and people would be looking at you sitting on the car, and somebody must have called. So the engineer, we see him like a kilometer up. Notice I'm using kilometers because this is a Canadian story, right? We're here in Los Angeles. You would say miles down here, but I'm gonna keep it Canadian. And it was a kilometer too. That's the other thing. So it was a kilometer. And he was walking up the track, and we thought, okay, we can't get caught here. So we ran off into the woods in the middle of December, snowy woods of Algonquin Park. We were hiding in the woods in some trees. The train was sitting there, rumbling. And we thought, if that train leaves, we're dead. So we waited for the engineer to walk back up to the front of the train, and then we ran back and got back on our boxcar, and the train left, and it went for a few more hours in the freezing cold through wilderness, and then eventually we started seeing roads again and some signs of civilization, and the train started to slow down. So we jumped off the moving train into basically drifts of snow that were along the edge of the track, and fortunately we were not killed. And then we hitchhiked from Sudbury, where we were just outside of Sudbury. We hitchhiked from Sudbury to Barrie, Ontario, where my aunt lived, and she made us spaghetti dinners and gave us $20. Then we found in the river in Peterborough, right by the Canadian Tire, we looked into the river and we saw these two bicycles. And they were perfectly good bicycles, brand new. And when we saw them in the water, and we thought, well, we could fish those bicycles out and ride them up to the highway, which is like a few miles away. And so we went into the Canadian Tire and we bought some rope and some wire, and we created a hook, and we cast them in there. We got around the handlebars, and we pulled out these 10-speed bikes, and we dried them off real good. And it was strange. They both said happy birthday on them. They had stickers that said happy birthday on them, both of them. So we figured probably it was like a couple of twins got some 10-speed bikes for their birthday. They had to be born on the same day, so they must have been twins. And they probably rode up to the Max Milk to buy some Big League Chew and some Fun Dip. And their bikes got jacked. Because these kids, they didn't lock up their bikes because they were ungrateful twins. A couple of ungrateful twins didn't look after their birthday gifts, and they got stolen, joyridden, and then thrown in the river by the Canadian Tire, only to be found by two desperate hobos who were hitchhiking back to Ottawa. So we jumped on the bikes. If you know Peterborough, you know we drove down the hill to the Wendy's and then realized that the freeway is up at the top of the hill. So then we ditched the bikes because we didn't feel like riding them uphill and they weren't working that good. And we walked up to the Tim Horton Donuts, and there was actually a Canadian Tire truck driver in there, and we befriended him, and he drove us back to Ottawa. And that's basically the whole story.
Spread your wings. Spread your wings. Yeah. Spread your wings. Spread your wings. Yeah.
You gotta think out of the box, especially in this modern world we're living in.